Hey, welcome to the channel where we show you how to put some prep in your step. Today I want to talk about one of the new features in 2021.4, and that's going to be the tiles function. Now, this is something that you can use to distribute your data into some buckets and do it pretty simply. And there's a couple of interesting use cases for it, and one of the ones that you'll see mentioned in the documentation for this new update is inventory distribution. So let's take a look at how you could apply this using both the visual editor or writing the calculation yourself. So let's dive in. So first, let's take a look at the actual help documentation that Prep released for this. So again, it's called Calculate Tiles. And so Tableau says you can use the tile feature to distribute rows into a specified number of buckets by creating a calculated field. So you're grouping your data into these buckets, and if you've got a nice even set of data, it's going to divide those buckets pretty evenly. But once you start maybe partitioning those tiles by different fields, then you'll get some uneven distributions, but still trying to work the data into a way that you can really create a more even distribution among your data. So there's some examples here that I highly encourage you to read through. Just to kind of show you how to write out the calculation and what it's doing. But if you're familiar with using the analytical functions and row number, rank, then the overall structure and how you put it together manually shouldn't be too unfamiliar. All right, so I've got two different mock data sets here that we'll use to create an example for this. We're going to stick to the example of creating inventory distribution list, right? And we're going to rank which stores we need to prioritize our restocking for based on how far they are from their threshold. So, again, obviously going to be much more different in a real world scenario. This, we've just got a super simple data set. We're assuming that the items in each of these lists, so if I open this one, we've got three fields here. We've got the store location, the stock, and the threshold. So we're assuming each of these lists deal with the same product or item ID. And we're just evaluating what's the total stock at each of these stores and how far is that from the threshold, over or under. And then we're going to use that to create our tiles to distribute how we need to prioritize restocking those stores. Let's say that we just got a massive shipment in our distribution centers and we're trying to figure out how do we need to prioritize this so that way we're catching up where we really need to, and that we make sure we don't ship somewhere that may be really overstocked for this item. So this one's just got the city. And so what I'm going to do here first, I'm going to create my field to determine if we're over or under stock. So let's say over, under, and we'll say stock minus threshold. And so this will just give us a general number of how far we are from that threshold. And so now I want to create my tiles based off of this field. I want to distribute my data based off this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here for the visual editor, and I'm going to come over here to create calculated field, and you'll see it's a new option here. We've got tile, so I'm going to select that, and you'll see it already kind of manually writes, or it creates that calculation automatically. And so this is what it looks like without any grouping. So for when you're working in the visual editor, the group by section is your partition, and then this is your order by, and you can order it by default descending, or you can order it ascending, and specify how many tiles you want to create. And so let's say for this example, I want to create 5 different priority buckets basically. So I'm going to say I want 5 tiles, and I want to distribute the data into those 5 tiles, but I want to order it by ascending because I want to prioritize the ones that are most understocked first. Okay, so I'm going to change this. So now it's ordering by ascending here, and we'll name this store priority, right? Or actually, we'll name this city priority. Priority. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, so now since I've got 1,000 rows of data, it just divided them all evenly. And so if I come here, so these are all cities that I need to prioritize first, right? But I don't want to randomly prioritize these still, right? So, this one, it's obviously ordered right now by the one that's most understocked. But just to make sure to kind of pair this with some more analytical functions in this use case, I could say I want to now go and rank those. So now I can say this is my restock priority, right? Or, you know, whatever you want to call it. And we'll say we just want to order by, or actually we want to partition by first. So partition by each city priority and order by my over under ascending again. And I want to do a rank dense. Okay, so let me save that. So now that I've got that, what this is going to help me do, when now that I can like take this data and do something with it, take some action on it. So here's my first bucket. So I know that all of these cities are where I want to prioritize my restocking. But now I've got this restock priority field that I can use to even further target it. I could have just, you know, ranked everything by this over under and done it that way. But this helps me kind of create some buckets that I could say, well, you know, I want to attack, definitely I want to attack everything in bucket 1, but I can still use these to kind of evaluate if I did need to do any restocking in one of these buckets, how would I prioritize those stores? But maybe, you know, like if I look at my bucket 3, I've got 15,000 units over my safety threshold. So we may not even need to attack those buckets. So this still helps me kind of really organize the way that I'm distributing that. And so when I look at my calculation again for that tile we created, you know, this is a really simple way to do it with the visual editor. I find that that can be helpful if you still really haven't fully grasped the concept of the partitions and what those calculations are doing or how you need to think about it when writing it out. But when it kind of displays this calculation here, it makes it easy to take that and make it your own. All right, so this time we're going to work with an added layer of the country in here, so that way we can first try to determine how do I need to bucket those countries to prioritize the restocking. And then once I do that, I want to determine how do I need to prioritize the stores within those countries. Okay, so first let's go here and create our over under field. So say over under stock minus threshold. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to aggregate this. And so for the store country, I'm going to aggregate my over under, right? Because this is going to allow me to really identify which countries that I need to target. Okay, and so from here, I'm going to add another clean step. And here is where I'll create my priority. So country priority. And so I'll say order by over under ascending. And so this time, writing it out manually, we're going to use the NTILE function. So NTILE, which is the new function that's been created for this distribution. And this is where I specify how many tiles I want. So I want 5 tiles. Okay, so there we go. Now I've got my countries in these buckets. And so now what I can do, oops, did not mean to do that. Now what I can do is I can take this and come back to this field, and I'm going to go ahead and come over here and join it, right? Join on country. Store country is equal to store country. And so that's going to bring in my country priority for each of these. And so I'm going to come over here. Let's see, store country is equal to store country. I'm going to merge those. I'm going to get rid of my duplicate over under field. And so now, let's see. Yeah, okay, looking good. And so now what I'm going to do is create another function and determine, now that I've got these countries prioritized, so if I look at priority 1, I've got Armenia in here. And so that one only has 3 rows, but I still need to determine which bucket these rows would fall into for this, okay? And even if I come over here, let's see if I go to Indonesia, and I can see in Indonesia, here is, you know, where some of these fall, right? And, okay, so let me create my field. I'm gonna say store priority in country, and or actually I'll just not say store priority, but I'll say priority in country. Can't spell today. We'll say this time we're going to partition by our country, and we're still going to order by our over under ascending, and we're going to do our NTILE function and specify 5 tiles. Awesome. So now let's go to this bucket 5, and let's go to Russia. And so I can see here in Russia, here are the way these stores are bucketized in this country. So now I can take that one final step and say create calculated field. Let's call this, now we'll call this store priority in country, and say I want to partition by my country and my priority in country. I want to order by over under ascending, and I want to do a rank dense. So this has really allowed me to take a much closer look into how I really need to segment and prioritize in each of these other areas. And I can use this to say, what is my overall restock availability in these areas, and sort of weight those priorities to determine where I really need to distribute that. So this tile function definitely has some good uses that we can do with this here. I'm sure the longer it's out, we'll really be able to see how people are using it to make decisions to better enable themselves. But yeah, those are just a couple of ways that you can use this new tile function. One way using the visual editor, and one way just writing out the calculation if you're pretty familiar with the analytical functions. So yeah, definitely some good stuff coming out in 2021.4. Next video we'll probably go over the new parameters and how you can kind of use those. And so if there's specific use cases you'd like to see, let me know. I hope you're getting some use out of the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one.